Blockhead and push it through the pain. Yeah, and taking names of Blockhead and learning what we can and stick it to the man. Oh, I am Blockhead. A Blockhead, yes I am.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Blockhead Nation. I'm not the special guest, even though it's starting to come off that way. I'm never here anymore. I'm Kyle, and we're here with a very special guest today. This is Nick Malloy, and we're joined by, of course, Ryan and Rudy of Blockhead Nation. We have Dave behind the desk. We're gonna get into episode 13. It's a milestone. Here we go.
Wow.
Yeah, we're trying to do like 15 or 16 episodes by the end of the year. It's kind of the goal that we created. Well, not more, just we're going to end at like 15 or 16. I think our original goal was like 20. Yeah, no. Our original goal was like 23 or 24. Yeah, because we want
two a month, right?
Yep.
That's tough to do.
It is.
There's a lot of work, guys. Right?
It's a lot posting it. And you know what we need to, Dave, is that, what is it called? Like the RRS or whatever? Where like
RSS?
Where like it posts all like across all platforms for you. The RSS feed or whatever. No, I literally do it manually on every single one. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So I need a good one because it takes me like
we knew that.
I write the description, right, and then I have to manually go on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple and like the back end of it, and then upload each episode, and then I have to like reformat. You know what I mean? Like the the description. It's a freaking pain in the ass. It's just like. Part of it's cool because I feel like I got something done, but the other part of it's like there's a better way to optimize.
There's a more efficient way to do it.
And I'm like sitting there for like an hour and a half at like midnight trying to do it.
Dude, yeah. We
should just get one. I don't think they're that expensive because the first one we got, they did it. It was like for free, but then you had to pay for it. And at that point we were spending a lot more than we are now.
Hey, let's ask Nick how he's doing.
That's a good idea.
I'm doing very well. Yeah, I'm doing very well.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's really nice to be with you all.
Nick Malloy. Dude, honestly,
Really nice.
it's a pleasure having you here, man. I love it. And just my relationship with Nick is just been nothing but butterflies and rainbows the last 10 to 15 years.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
It's really been a while now.
So we're happy to have you here, man. We're just gonna sort of shoot the shit, folks. We'll talk about where we're at with Blockhead Nation. We'll just talk about what Nick's up to, and
we were just talking about
some of the philosophy.
80s movies.
Yeah,
maybe we'll discuss some more.
Yeah,
80s
go
books.
deep.
80s music. Why not?
Yeah,
Maybe we'll talk about the 80s today.
You obviously want to do that, so
I was really liking that topic.
Kyle, I was saying we're going to talk about philosophy and just how we've sort of where we're at right now, headspace wise, and maybe where we came from. And I think that's going to be really fun for everybody.
The maturity of where we've come. You know what question I wanted to ask you? I was thinking on the way here.
Yeah.
You were one of the first people that I know who actually got a Tesla.
How
was that experience, and what are your thoughts about that industry moving forward? Because it's actually an industry that I'm in.
Yeah. There are a lot of takeaways from that experience. I would say at this point in my life, the $40,000 that I spent over that 3-year period of ownership could have been better utilized in an investment account.
Mm-hmm. Or property.
Well, do you still have the Tesla?
No. I have a family.
That's good.
But a little bit of background on that car. I think it was 2017, and I grew up in a family where we always drove used vehicles, and
awesome family, by the way.
Yeah, we always had used cars. Oftentimes they were not the most aesthetically pleasing vehicles. From my perspective, they didn't have that modern look to them, but they were they certainly served their purpose. But as a kid, I always wondered what it would be like to have the new car.
Yeah.
And I always, as I got a little bit older, I also always wondered, you know, what did it feel like to be that person with the really cool car?
Yeah.
You know, you'd see the guy.
How is it going to make you feel?
Audi,
Yeah, I think
or
every
the
guy has that at
Mercedes.
some point in their life. They're like, you know, I want to be that guy with the
Yeah,
For
like
sure.
That
what
was
is
the
that?
cutting
Or a splurge moment, right? Just,
Yeah,
you know,
you
like,
know.
I can do this, I'm going to do this. You know?
Right.
You worked really
yeah.
hard. You know what I mean? Obviously, you know, you made it work. Like you could afford it at the time, and you know, I personally thought it was impressive. You know, when you had gotten it, but
Yeah.
it's a milestone because it's something you do for yourself, and you kind of get to learn from that experience. But at the same time, you know, and
Yeah, these are I think they call them like aspirational purchases, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, at that point, I think I was about to turn 30, or I was 30, and I was a little over. I was a little over 30, and I got that Tesla, and it was really cool. You know, it was a fun car to own, but over time, you know, like all things, it just became the new normal for me. And, you know, you realize that those types of material items don't make a big difference.
Yeah,
That's the thing,
That's
dude.
a great place to the sediment of kind of what we're doing at Blockhead Nation, right? It's kind of like peeling back some of the layers of the onion. You know, it's good to have fun, and we try to do that, but you know, grounding yourself right in like the reality of what's really important to you in the overall scheme of things is awesome. But I mean, those things go fast.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
was
there's
really
the pickups
fast.
like 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds or something. It's like the same as a
There's no lag.
Yeah.
It's all electric.
it's just amazing.
You're
Yeah.
not- you're
Well,
not-
it was with the electric motors. It's like instantaneous torque.
Right.
Yeah.
So
It's incredible.
Just,
It's a lot of
you can't
power
beat
in
it.
that battery.
Yeah.
How long did you have it for after you bought it?
3 years. Yeah. I
Do you
had
feel like
3
you got your, like, did you get it out of your system?
Oh, yeah.
Were you sad when you got rid of it?
No, actually,
Well,
it's
that's-
funny. You know, my mother and father were with me when I picked it up, right?
Yeah.
And then they were with me when I brought it back to the dealership. And my mom, being my mom, she's like, "Are you sad, Nick? You know, like, are you
'Cause you're
disappointed? Are you disappointed that you lost? Well,
That's
when I
awesome.
dropped it off,
That's awesome,
Are you
Mama.
disappointed that you're getting rid of this vehicle?" And I really, at that point, I didn't care. I didn't care, and I don't even think about it. Now I have a Subaru Legacy hatchback.
Oh, when you sold it, she asked you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
I thought it was when you're buying it.
No.
Are you sad
Yeah.
inside?
No, but I drive my wife's car. We got her a car, we got another car, and she drives the other Subaru, but I drive like the hand-me-down, which feels fitting, you know, as like a father. You just kind of, that's the rhythm that you get into is you wear your kids' shoes once they're done with them. And, you know, I'll drive
Dom
the
has
cars.
a closet full of my old shoes. I'm going to continue to provide them because I keep getting them. That's the only thing I spend money on now.
Yeah, I
is
see it
shoes.
on the Instagram. It's like, oh, recently purchased. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's Rudy buying more shoes.
Right. Accidentally buying it on the Blockhead Nation account.
Yeah. Their feet grow fast.
Oh, yeah.
They do, these kids. They grow.
Dude.
That's a smart idea.
Dom-
I never really thought about that. Obviously, as somebody who doesn't have kids yet.
Yeah. Dom's going to give me all his shoes. So, well, I saw this quote recently, and it's in line with what Nick's saying is, you know, we may struggle growing up, or we may feel our parents don't understand our struggle, but we're put into that struggle so that we never know the struggle that they had maybe faced, right? So it's sort of like when you get to the point where you can get out of that place that you know, maybe if you think you might have been deprived, you're like, we never, like, I'm the same way. My parents, you know, we weren't, you know, very extra well off, and we had, you know, used cars growing up. But when you get to a point where you can afford a new car, you want to sort of do it, sort of experience it, and then, you know, the circle that continues. You're going to tell your kids you don't really need it, but you know, if you want to do it, you know, go ahead.
Yeah.
You know, when they get
test the
older.
water.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yeah.
I think a car for me, because we had no money, and actually Dave's father was a mechanic, so he was the patriarch of a lot of things and made the decisions of what vehicles we were going to drive, and for him and my mom, and they were always used vehicles. And then we had hand-me-downs. Dave and I think each drove the same car there was like a 1992 Pontiac that like 4 of us drove in the family.
It's awesome.
The teal one.
It started with Josh. It went to Chris. It went to Matt.
Yeah.
Then it went to you.
It went to Chris.
Five of us.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing. That's some serious.
And I love
mileage
cars.
right
I love cars, and I was like, when I finally make my own money, I'm gonna get a really nice car. And
You're a car guy for sure.
I am, but for me, I think a car. I understand the reservation parents have with like, oh, don't spend your money or waste your money on a car. A car is not a great investment. However, depending on your life, and I think commonly, you spend so much time in your car.
Yeah.
So why not drive something that you're gonna love and that you enjoy?
Yeah.
Because it's so, and for me, it's like it's a part of like, I like to pursue things that are like I feel like are me, and it's just like I enjoy that about life, and it's a luxury, and it's maybe I take it for granted, but I think it's something that for a lot of people, it's worth getting something you really like, you enjoy, and you're gonna be happy driving, and it's just fun, and you feel like good in.
Yeah.
But,
I actually have an interesting. Now that we're talking about this, sorry, had a few beers yesterday. So no, so when my we didn't have a lot of money at all growing up, and we had like a 1995 Oldsmobile, and it had like rust on it, and it was just really an unaesthetic.
my mom had one
car.
of those. Yeah.
It was like baby blue. And I feel bad even saying this, but I want to, say this for the podcast and everybody listening. I used to make them drop me off down the street because I was so embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
And
I've been in similar situations.
And I just
yeah.
in retrospect, it's like my parents were trying as hard as they could, and like what a rotten thing to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's funny,
It makes me
yeah.
emotional, like talking about
Well,
it.
you were a kid.
Yeah, and they understood, and they did it, and then like I was excited when my dad got like a '99 Buick because at least it was a little bit nicer. And
You
then
could
I was
be
less,
seen in it.
I was less embarrassed by that until
Yeah.
let the crap get beaten out of it because he never really took that good care of the cars. But and then I don't know. At some point though, like I think I was really insecure as a young kid, and that was obviously that showed itself, and even how timid I was around women and stuff like that. And at some point, when I got I'm happy that I feel like I had a little bit of a switch at some point. But to bring this story full circle, I actually commuted to MCLA in North Adams my freshman year, and would actually have my mom bring me right up to like Murdoch Hall there and drop me off right in front of my class in the same Buick, when I was like 17, 18 years old, because I didn't give a shit anymore. I just owned it,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm probably the only kid at MCLA getting dropped off by his mom, and I love every second of it. I don't care anymore,
Yeah, right, yeah.
And then that kind of like, just like having that like more like relaxed, like less insecure, definitely still insecure, but it was able to just kind of own like where I came from and be proud of it.
That's
And,
huge, dude.
yeah, it
like
was,
this,
that was kind of
the
a
acceptance
nice-
of that situation.
So
And it's funny we're talking about cars because Nick, that's your sort of line of work right now, right? You want to tell us what you're doing?
Yeah. So I'm a systems engineer, and my like primary area of expertise is system safety engineering. So, my role is to help define the safe performance of systems. And right now, I work in the automotive industry. I'm part of the safety team for a self-driving car company. So we're
Which is
building
gonna be
a robot.
huge.
Yeah, we're building a robot taxi. There's a few different players. In the
it's amazing. I mean, my buddy just bought a Ford Tremor, and he was showing me like the hands-free assist. Like you put on the blinker, it will literally switch lanes. It can go off and exit all by itself.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's so many things that are baked into the newer cars. But I obviously just feel I'm a little old school. Like I have like a reserved feeling about that. But when you really think about it, it's probably safer overall than people left to their own devices. Even having like the lane assist, like I don't like when it jerks my car back, but if I'm like getting distracted, it's I've had
I
it
totally
in my
disagree,
car.
man. That's going to be the downfall of our society, is leaving everything up to technology. And driving is beautiful too. That's the other thing about cars, is when you have a car you love to drive, and even still, just like it's a part of the human experience.
It's
You
an
know what I mean?
extension of yourself.
It's an extension of
right?
yourself.
Yeah.
And when you hit an open road and the sun's going down and there's a beautiful sunset, and you pop the sunroof back or the moonroof or the top down, like, and you got your favorite song on, and it's the sky is like cotton candy, that you can't describe just like those feelings. And everyone feels things a little differently, but I think most people, human nature is like everyone responds to the beauty of a sunset. Like a lot of people respond to the awesomeness of driving a cool car. But
Yeah.
like self-driving cars and technology taking over in that regard is now making me think of Total Recall from the 80s. Hey, there's our first 80s reference. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That guy, right?
Just out the
And
Tuma.
there was like a
Is that
fake,
Total
there
Recall,
was a
Dave?
robot dude in that car.
Yeah,
right?
he's driving the taxi. Yeah, that's what it made me think of.
And he'd like turn around.
Yeah.
In the car.
Yeah, he's like getting frustrated with it.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of cool though having like somebody who's entrenched in the industry, knows where it's going, and then somebody who's kind of a little bit worried about it. And I feel like I have some reservations about it as well. But
We should get into that more. I'm sorry. I just want to ask real quick.
So that's what
Dave, I just want to ask, can we get an 80s reference movie counter when we edit this, when this goes to
I'm
production?
gonna have to write this down then.
So where are we at right now? One?
Yeah.
Total Recall. That was the 80s?
There's probably some in the beginning if we clip it in.
Was that the 80s Total Recall?
Of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks.
I
Yeah, no, you're kind of a movie buff.
Yeah.
You're
I mean,
Movies reference.
it's a great movie.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
There you go.
You have good
You have a
taste.
feeling it's going to be a lot. So.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Go on.
What I will say about the self-driving car industry is that where you're seeing the initial impacts of the potential, or the demonstrated impacts of the associated potential, are in dense urban environments, and that's really like the target audience.
Yeah.
For instance, San Francisco. If you visit San Francisco, you're going to see Waymo cars everywhere. Like you can't turn around without seeing one. And the idea behind behind this is, in these dense urban environments, people don't necessarily need a car, right? And they could use
Uber
public
it,
transportation. A lot of people use Uber to begin with, right? So the idea is that we go to these types of locations, whether it's San Francisco or Phoenix, Arizona, or Las Vegas, and we try to disrupt
the current market.
The current market.
Yeah.
There's a metric that I had heard years ago. For every $10 that a rider is charged using an Uber, I think like 90% of it goes towards the driver. So like, what Uber and Lyft are actually getting is really not a lot.
Nominal,
but
yeah.
if you could replace the driver, right, with an autonomous system, now you're getting
Profits,
all that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, and that's sort of like the business strategy behind
Nick,
it.
did you see the Tesla unveiling of their robotaxi and their
watched-
bus?
Yeah, the Robo van, or
Yeah.
as I think Elon put it, the Robovan.
The Robovan, is that what he
That
said?
sounds about
Just
right.
a little weird, the Robovan.
Comes
Yeah.
up with some cool names.
Yeah.
So they're a player. You got,
I don't know.
or maybe they'll sell to the
No,
players.
So the thing with Tesla, that is an issue, and that you hear a lot of like experts in the industry kind of pointing out, is like Tesla is really hard pressed on this idea that they can provide like fully autonomous capabilities using only vision. Right? These AV stacks are comprised of radar sensors, cameras, right? LiDAR is a technology that allows you to create 3D maps of your environment, but they're super expensive.
Yeah.
So, but Tesla is driving down cost, right? LiDAR is like a super important part of all this.
It is the eyes.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about it. If you're in a low visibility situation and your cameras go out, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's like, maybe it's just like really dark out or whatever, and you like lose your headlights or something. You don't have, there are a number of factors, but the LiDAR is going to be your backup, right? It's going to allow you to see things that you wouldn't be able to see under normal circumstances.
Can I ask you an honest question?
Yeah.
And then I think I'd like to ask the other guys too.
Okay.
What would you truly prefer as somebody chauffeuring you around safely? And let's even like maybe you and your kid, or just you. What would you prefer?
It depends on my use case. if I'm commuting to work every morning and evening, I would prefer to be able to not have to focus on driving. I'd prefer to maybe get ahead on work.
Yeah,
I'd
so
prefer
you do some more
to
computer open.
Yeah, so
read a
take
book. I'd
transportation
prefer
or
to
something,
yeah. Take a
scroll,
nap.
right? Take a
So
nap.
you're open to
chill
like
a little bit.
like a AI driving you around, like to work.
Yeah,
Okay.
I rode in a Waymo, and it's a very amazing experience. Yeah, yeah. It depends on like your. It depends on your immediate needs. You know.
But if you're driving Route 9 and you want to see the foliage, you get in your car, right?
Yeah, if you want to go
get
for
in
a
the
ride,
vet. You get in the
wanna
vet.
cruise around, get in the vet, just
Yeah.
do a little cruising, and yeah, man.
Yeah, that's a good point. Use cases is important, and if I were to answer that, Kyle, I'd probably say the same too, right? It's just I've never been in an autonomous vehicle, but so I don't have anything to compare to, but I'm gonna experience it. I want to experience it.
Yeah, you will.
And yeah, it's
It's
coming.
coming.
It's coming.
It's
Yeah.
coming.
It's like-
It's on the horizon.
And do you want to answer that question too?
Well, yeah, I think that I feel like I'm somewhat of a risk taker, right? So even if it's like the earlier stages of it, right? I know there are some successful companies, like you mentioned, Waymo in San Francisco, but especially if it was like around town or like in Boston, you're stopping at a red light every like 10 minutes anyway.
Yeah.
So like it gets a little bit more, I guess, just scary for me. Like it's more risk adverse or whatever if you're going, 80
So many
down the highway.
variables.
But like having this type of technology in place allows you to actually kind of reimagine what that's the system of streets
Yeah.
actually looks like, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you have a future where you don't need stoplights anymore because the cars are talking to each other, right?
Or streets at all.
Maybe
That was my
streets,
next. That was
yeah.
going to be
Well,
my
I'll tell you
next thing. There's this company, Donati. I think it's Donati, and they have. It's a vehicle that is a drone-looking like operation, and it's got 4 propeller. What is it? Seats 4, I think, and
It flies?
It flies.
Jesus.
And
Yeah.
That's
they
another level.
they got an FAA. I think they're one of the only few companies that have FAA certs on their prototype.
Wow.
But I feel like, get the stuff running smoothly on the ground. AI is going to help with that. Just autonomous. You're not going to have a pilot, is what I'm getting.
Yeah,
getting at.
Blade Runner's around the
In
corner.
these,
That's 80s 80s reference
Wait, what
too.
was it?
Blade Runner's around the
Blade
corner.
Runner. Oh,
Yeah,
geez.
Blade Runner's on the horizon.
Was that Wesley
I'm not gonna
Snipes?
give
Is that
one
who
to
was
you.
in there?
I'm not going to give that
That's
one
Harrison
to you 'cause
Ford.
that
Oh,
book
it's
was
Harrison
written way
Ford,
before the
okay.
80s.
That's 80s movie strictly. That's well, you can't. There's you got to differentiate between the novel and the book, man.
Dave's the arbiter of truth, dude.
Or I'm sorry, the novel.
He said no.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. The novel and the film.
How about Running
We're just
Man-
strictly
Running
films,
Man?
Dave.
Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger. That was a
Running Man.
and that's
Wow.
sort of a
Is
dystopian.
Is that 1990? I feel like
I
Dave
just-
knows
just
everything.
list
So I go
all
to
Arnold
Dave.
movies.
I'm like, Dave, is Running Man 1990 or 89? Another good call up.
Yeah.
But Blade Runner, I guess, would be number 2.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford hunting androids that are
87.
Oh man.
Wow.
Running Man.
Yeah.
Oh, nice, Nick. Nice Running Man. Yeah, right.
My 80s references aren't going to be as strong as these guys because
That's
I,
all right.
I am a 90s baby.
Leave it to
I'm
me.
a few years
Baby.
behind,
Leave it
so,
to me.
Anyway,
Anyway,
I'll come up with something.
I don't dig it. I don't dig giving all this power to technology. I think it has its conveniences, but like, to what extent does humanity need to continue to create convenience to the point where you're eliminating jobs, you're eliminating the spiritual factor of just human interaction of everyday life. It's like that thing that went on the internet where like you see people on like one side of this meme, in like the 50s or 60s, all reading newspapers on like a subway train, and then like contemporarily it's a ton of people on their phones.
Yep.
Right, and like the argument was that there's no difference, but I think that's completely false. I think that's a false It's a false equivalency, because even just the interaction with your consciousness and the brain, and with lights, because the human brain interacts with just lights.
Just circadian rhythm.
Just
throws it all out of
light
whack.
itself. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
especially
light,
late at
and that's such a base element of technology in your hand. That's not even scratching the surface.
Yeah.
I mean, at least a newspaper or a book, you're reading. Reading is so human in and of itself, because it's like it's an art. Writing
It
was an art.
requires effort.
Yeah.
It
I
helps
mean,
with
writing is an
comprehension
art.
skills and everything.
Yeah, it's art. It's art.
Yeah.
It's artistic. I mean, I think technology eliminates a lot of the artistic side of life. And
I do want to say something though, because I wanted to finish my thought with the whole driving thing. I am like really obsessed in a way with efficiency. So to Nick's point, like if I could actually work while I was getting somewhere, like that would
Sure.
be very good for me. And there's another thing about people driving.
it's hard to argue.
Well, the human error is ridiculous too. Like the traffic, I would say probably at least 50% of the time, and I'm just throwing out arbitrary numbers, is because people are coming on and off ramps really dumb. They're always in the wrong lane.
Looking at their phone.
If there was a majority of automated cars, in our future, like you could have the same amount of people on the road commuting from point A to point B, therefore, with less traffic because of the automation of it, and then people would get to where they have to go faster. And then I'm not a big fan of like all those Uber drivers losing their thing. Like you think of that from a humanity standpoint, it's like it's a lot. But then I think the inverse argument that I've heard for that, Kyle, is human potentiality. Is that like when these people no longer have that opportunity, it leaves a swath of people that could go and do something or create something else. And
Sure.
I think a lot of things have happened because of technology. People have gotten more creative and thought outside of the box, and now you can't even get anybody to work at a restaurant or a convenience store because everyone's like, I could do anything. So it's kind of like you have these kids and these creatives who are creating these unbelievable inventions at a crazy exponential speed, but at the same time, there's a lot of people who are being left behind.
Yeah.
And it's like, where in public policy or where's that line that you
Yeah,
draw? And it's hard to extrapolate that to the future.
That's huge, man. Like,
Yeah.
what's the balance? Kyle and I were talking about it last night when we were going out. Is a lot of us corporate folks, and I'm not saying Nick's this because I think Nick is actually doing something in line with his passions. But like, we're all liars, and I'm a liar in that I want to do something. My purpose I feel is greater than just sitting behind the desk and doing what I'm currently doing. Although what I'm currently doing, pays the bills. It's if I were to stop that and do with something that I might be more passionate about or more feel I have a greater purpose or surrounding it, it'd be a significant hit to the income. So it's really finding that balance and the time to do both and try to work in a way to make money with your passions. But corporate America and the capitalistic crunch that everybody experiences sort of put us in this spot, and there's no easy way out.
Guys, listen, if you want us to be able to do this full time and do social media and podcasts, we're going to put a Patreon link in the description. Please donate to us today so Rudy can quit his job. I can quit my corporate job. Nick can get on board, and we can ride with Kyle with the roof off into the sunset. Thank you very much.
Well, Nick, anyway, I think your field of work is great, though. I think that's imaginative, and I think that to Ryan's point, making life more efficient in some areas. I'm not playing devil's advocate. I'm just in expressing my thought. I think that when you can mesh the usefulness of technology with the beauty of human life and our society, I think that's really cool, man. I mean, that sounds like fun work.
Yeah, it's really fun, and I think what happens is when we have these new things come about, oftentimes people think in extremes, right? So it's, we have artificial intelligence. It's really starting to pop off now because we've got the hardware to actually perform the computations along with the data and the algorithms. And what I think we sort of, and we sort of imagine that, now AI is going to take over, right? Everything is going to go to hell. Mm-hmm. But in reality, I imagine a future that is just ripe with collaboration, For example, ChatGPT. The the way that I've been able to enhance various aspects of my work by using ChatGPT is just it's amazing. It's like having a buddy,
Yeah.
you know, like a work buddy right there, and it speeds everything
It's like
up.
Google on steroids, like
Yeah,
to
it's-
1,000 power.
No,
So-
I mean, it
personal
makes
assistant.
it's like my analysis is just like it becomes so much more comprehensive because I'll share my feedback, or ask some questions, and it's like, oh, I didn't think of that. Yeah, that needs to be included. So it's I see it. I imagine a future where there's it's a collaborative environment.
Yeah, when you say collaborative, it's not between people; it's AI and people coming together, right?
Yeah,
In a way, yeah.
it's gonna be cool.
There's like the neural link and all that, right? But I think that there's something to be said about what they think that it's going to grow exponentially and get smarter and smarter than humans. Because like the best AI now, at least that we know about, is about as smart as like the smartest human. It's kind of surpassing that.
Yeah.
Is that,
Well, I mean, what's smart, right? Is smart like
Yeah.
being able to
it's just
regurgitate
taking
information
off
or
of
like
Google or whatever,
or
yeah.
like reasoning, right?
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
where the creativity element comes into it as well. But
What you're talking about is artificial general intelligence.
Yes.
That's the reasoning part.
yeah, and it's like when it gets better and better at whatever that it does that I probably don't have the best explanation for. I think that you find yourself, hopefully, in an optimistic sense, in a world where you can find a cure for cancer and, obviously dementia, which is correlated to food and a lot of other things, but it's going to give more people the ability to identify some of these issues. And then because of technology and social media and the way that information spreads, it's going to be harder to shoot down some of these things. Because right now, if there was theoretically a cure for cancer, it's such a big industry and so much money is being made off of it that there's a lot of chances that would be shut down. Just like the EV car, hydrogen cars have been shut down for so long, or automated cars, because the oil industry is so powerful.
Yeah.
Same with, the tobacco industry and other things, and we know that there's a lot of nefarious things going on with big money and big powers that be, and, I don't want to go conspiratorial about it, but I think that that's the great thing about things going into that direction. One of my ideas that I think I've shared multiple times is like, if we had government spending on some type of like blockchain ledger, it also would give regular people with the ability to network and communicate like through social media, the ability to kind of keep these politicians and governments like more in check in that regard. I know that's a little bit of a utopian idea,
well said.
but it's like
well said.
it'd be great if it can shift in that direction and we can kind of see the policy move towards that. Then I really see, to Nick's point, AI making the world a much better place, making people healthier, happier, and hopefully move things in the right direction.
Well, I think the underlying theme too is like AI is just freeing up time, whether it be time to find better issues or better things to regulate, whether government spending or just be more creative. I think it's a progression of the human race, and it's what's going to be around for most likely ever at this point. And they're going to keep building on it. And Dave and I were riding up here. I don't know what it's going to look like in the next couple of years or 10 years, but I'd imagine it's going to be different, much different than what we're currently experiencing in the world today. And with any luck, we'll avoid any mass conflicts, and people can use that freed up time that they're experiencing because of these AI enhancements to, find that cancer treatment, do some peaceful activities, do some charity events, whatever it may be, to better their surroundings and their community. Again, with any luck, we'll avoid some potential issues that the world's probably going to face.
Yeah, like the wrong person getting their hand on that technology.
Right. Yeah.
But I like what you said though, and especially when I think about you guys all having children and stuff. It's like even Nick getting through that analysis or whatever, sending out that really important email. He did that quicker with that technology.
Yeah.
And
now he can go hang out with the kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He has more time to spend with his people, and I think that if he's able to hang out with his people, his family,
Yeah.
his family, then that that makes his family better, and then they get better, and then it kind of spreads out to the community and that kind of block by block aspect that because you can only control what you can control. So if you're able to spend more time on your resources in your community, whether it's charity or any of those things, those are the little things that hopefully grow out. Like I said, I'm being very utopian or whatever you want to call it today, but it's
Yeah.
that's what the hope is, and I think that most people have that like somewhere like baked in their conscience, like they want to see things progress better for everybody.
Yeah. Or go ahead, Nick.
Well, I was gonna say, like one of the other things that I talk about extremes. People tend to also think of these things from like a bottoms up perspective. They think of implementation, right? Like,
how is it?
What's the tool? How is it going to be used? Is it going to be used for good? Is it going to be used for bad? And I'm actually I'm a part of this course. Cohort right now. It's through a nonprofit called the Blue Dot Impact.
Okay.
They're based out of the UK, and they brought about 400 of us together. You apply. They have a rolling admission, but there's about 400 of us from around the world, right? Cool. And as part of this program, every week we have reading materials that are focused on the policy and the process and the procedures around AI safety governance, right? So more of a tops-down approach. Before we even get to the place where we're like using these tools from an implementation standpoint, what type of like regulations need to be in place to begin with, right? Like what does the policy look like? That we use as the basis for the development of these types of things, and what type of analysis are we performing to ensure that we're baking safety into the design?
Yeah,
that's
going to be safe.
Yeah, public policy, is a huge aspect of everything because it's very nuanced, as you know.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't. It sounds a little messed up, but you can't always save everybody. I know we're talking about this being used for better, but like when you're making these decisions, you have to do what's greater for the most people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it varies depending on where you are in the world.
Yeah.
I was speaking to a fella who's in France last week, and he spent 2 years in the Emirates. We were discussing privacy concerns.
Yeah.
In the U.S., we are like all about our privacy for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Well, he had spent 2 years in the Emirates. In the Emirates, they don't care about privacy. They don't mind if they're being surveilled because their crime rate is like 0.0%.
Yeah.
They can leave their doors unlocked at night.
Yeah.
Right? But that's a cultural thing, and it's about cultural values. So like policy in the U.S. is not necessarily going to translate to policy in the Emirates around privacy. So we always have to be mindful of the fact that not everybody is going to hold on to the same values as we do.
Yeah, that's hard.
It is hard.
It's very hard,
Yeah.
especially with these
who's making those decisions,
new technologies too. And if these companies are global, what's to your point earlier, Don, everything's going to have to be nuanced. But it'd be really cool if at some point everybody can get on the same page, some way somehow. It's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
But
that's where I might have to draw the line with the whole utopian business.
It's just really interesting how cultural differences will impact how safety is developed within these new technologies.
Well, yeah, even in our own country, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like there's a cultural war going on in our own country, right? So it's like culture baked into cultures that are also, opposite of each other.
Sure. Yeah. And when you think of, when I'm thinking of safety, it's such a broad cloaking. It should be safe, but it means different things to different people. And it's interesting and concerning a little. But I was going to say, Nick, you're a family guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you have these... One thing I always admired about you is you're always seeking the knowledge and to progress yourself in
continuous
your line of work.
learning.
Yeah, continuous learning.
Yeah, always.
So you went back to school at... What was it? Alabama?
I did that at University of Alabama at Birmingham, and then I was at UMass Amherst for that other program.
And you have experience in grant solicitation right now, right?
So, Timsky and I did like the small business, or it was a small business technology transfer research kind of program where you partner with a small business if you're in an educational institution, and Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, you partner with.
I was like,
Yeah, you partner with. If you're a part of a university, that and you're plugged into the research department, then you can partner with small businesses and apply for grants, research grants through, like, say, the Department of Defense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah. When
We didn't win.
I was gonna. Yeah. All right. Then
But
I
it was
ask,
really fun. It was a great experience. It
Yeah.
really was. I learned a ton.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it can always be
valuable.
implemented in the future, right? Because
Yeah.
that's where the constant learning and knowledge, and honestly, going back to like how we all started this, like I started really listening to like ebooks and podcasts, especially 5-6 years ago, and it really taught me so much about the world and different topics, and really kind of shaped me becoming more mature and stepping out of some of my old ways. And that's why it's like I went from somebody who was like, I just kind of go with the wind and do whatever, and
Or,
hang
I know
out.
what it is.
Yeah, I kind of like, or I have some type of intrinsic answers about the world, and then I finally, it was just me being lazy, really, and not willing to, because it's confronting. Learning information is confronting, because you don't only learn more about the world and what's happened and everything, especially historically. You learn a lot about yourself
And how you think about what you're taking in, right?
because when you're taking in that information and how you perceive it. So that's something that I really admire about you, especially going back to school and doing that, because it's something that really is part of the reason why we started this. And the blocks and all the different ideas that we play with, it really comes from a place of bettering yourself and then moving towards what you've always wanted to do. And I think that starts with taking in as much knowledge as you can, especially about the topics that are pertain to you and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. I think that, as I've grown, I feel like, we naturally try to pursue the path of least resistance. But the path of least resistance isn't necessarily the one that's going to give you the most opportunity for growth, right?
Yeah.
So if you can pick and choose the right, pivots, those may not be provide the least amount of resistance, but hopefully they will result in some growth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's just a true and self improvement in nature, really. It's just the law of this reality. Like,
It's very biblical too.
Being comfortable is. I'm a victim of it right now. Like I was telling Rudy,
It's a comfy chair.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm a victim of this comfort.
Yeah.
You have nothing.
We all are.
Worth obtaining is going to be easy. You know what I mean? It's just like.
Well, if it's easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Like I'm like getting home at night and I'm like watching, I watch a movie at like 9 p.m. and I should be like reading, or writing again or like
Sleeping.
But it's sleeping.
I sleep at 8. That's when I go to bed.
Sleeping is really good, but anything worth self-improvement requires getting uncomfortable. But
And putting in effort, and
well, effort is uncomfortable.
And
it's
really and I'm drawing these connections now, but like literally, we did a perfect job with the blocks. I mean, it's fucking spot on. It's a beautiful thing.
Come on, can you kiss on the cake?
Yeah,
Beautiful
I mean, because you really. Dave said it in one of his monologues is, you have to, we all may view ourselves as, slightly above average, on the top bit, but we all think that way. So aren't we all the same? Aren't we all average now?
Yeah.
Isn't that bar the average now?
I can't wait to release that monologue, by the way. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's
really is good.
I feel like an imposter all the time.
Yeah, dude. I mean, right.
Personally,
and this is
I suffer from imposter syndrome a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm like anything special. Like I'm like I thank God daily that like I get through my job and like I give it to Him. Like I'm not. I don't know. I may be good at certain things, but I'm not. I have no illusions of like how fragile everybody is and how fragile this construct of society is. Everybody is.
Mm-hmm.
Biblically speaking, everyone's a sinner. Everybody is guilty and also flawed and corrupt to some degree because of selfishness and greed and the desire for power.
I was just listening to this.
We're really going through the motions in a society.
Vanity with nice cars.
You name it, sure.
Desire.
It's if anything, I'm more aware that like I am in need of, you know, the biblical truths of like, you know, I made you this way, you chose this. Go along in the world now and see how well you do for several thousand years without me, because this is what you chose. I'm going to fix it for you, by the way. Here's my son on the cross, going to forgive you of your sins. And you'll get to heaven and you'll be back with me, and we'll try it again, because Christianity is, again, the only faith that depicts the living God coming to reside in you as the Holy Spirit. And that's what Jesus taught at Pentecost when he had to, after Jesus rose from the grave, he was there with his disciples for 40 days. And they begged him not to leave, but he said, you don't understand what I'm doing right now. I must go, because when I go, I will leave with you a helper. And he was talking about the Holy Spirit. So in my faith, and I do believe this to be true, because I think, and Rudy and I were talking about this, truth, you can't have life without truth. Mathematical evidence of truth is in nature. I mean, without truth, you don't have life. Mm-hmm. So that is the foundation of what is there is a truth, and there's a creator, and there is a right and a wrong. I think that as a part of our fallen nature, we do obviously at times think we're greater than we are, and you know, we behave more selfishly at times. It like kind of goes up and down, but my faith has helped me with and I do think there's some sort of supernatural interaction for sure. Because there's something in me telling me that's wrong. Like it's like a super consciousness, like a super conscience. Like
that's the unbreakable thing. Sorry, Rudy. We all have, you know, a conscience, and like there's something inside of you. It's like, you know, me and James were actually speaking on the way here, and he's really gotten back.
Yeah, dude's super spiritual. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very spiritual, and he's gotten back into his religion, and he's Catholic, so he was speaking from that perspective. But you know, he's like, God speaks through you, but it's in your own voice, you know, and that when you know if you're doing something right or wrong, it's just there's something that, you know, depending on how spiritual you are, but there's something within you that
it's not of yourself.
It's not of yourself. It's you know, but it's in your voice, and that's something that, you know, even me and Gina were thinking about. I texted you guys going to church today instead of coming here, but it's
beautiful.
Finding truth, your own truth, or you know, some type of existential truth through faith it's saved a lot of people in a lot of ways, and you know, call it ignorant or not, I do truly believe that it's a way for people to grow internally, and you know, to kind of move forward in the world, being able to have that, being humble and being able to give yourself to, you know, saying, hey, I failed, but in those few moments where you do something, it's almost like godlike when you actually do an act of kindness and you don't expect anything in return. Yeah. And those are those little nuggets where you feel like, you know, maybe something higher than yourself is living through you. And a lot of that was the conversation I had with James. I don't want to take his ideas and
James,
try to take credit for him here.
Yeah,
James is a very deep thinker.
Shout out.
He'll be on the podcast at some point.
Yeah. No, I was gonna just say, so Kyle is very religious, and I always enjoy his.
Not religious. That's the thing.
Forgive me if I just
misheard. No, I'm not like poo-pooing.
Don't label me.
Poo-pooing you.
No, well, the point of Christ coming was Christianity was born out of the Hebrew faith, because God's chosen people are the Jews, right? And he always worked through the Jews. He had prophets, and his chosen people were. Jesus's birth couldn't be possible without the Jewish people, but they were so religious. And Jesus finally, when he was born and became a man, finally the message was, everything about this world is wrong. Where I'm going to go and where I want you to go is right. And this world is a reflection of just how fallen you are, because this world is broken, it's busted. And he goes as far as to say that the God of this world truly is the devil. And he called the religious elite vipers, sons of Satan. Jesus' point was that it's not about religion, it's about a relationship with God. And you were talking about that voice. James was talking about that voice. It's not. He speaks through your own voice, right? Your own thoughts, but that's because he gave you those thoughts. You don't have thoughts without him. He gave you that opportunity to live, and to have that. It requires the ability to not think so literal about life, because everything is spiritual in a sense, but it's not. It's faith. It's not.
It's a knowing. It's a knowing, right?
Yeah, well, that's the point of like Christ when his own people killed him because they were so stuck in their religious ways. They were so their pride and their ego was so fixated on this is how we've been doing it and doing it forever. But Jesus was like, yeah, well, the Father in heaven's been telling you forever that you're doing it wrong.
And yeah, that's kind of where me and James were talking about. He was talking about Catholicism, and I was like, I really think it boils down to your relationship with God. And if you want to practice that through a church, if it's non-denominational or whatever it may be,
I'm going to say this:
that relationship is just a greater good, a calling through yourself, and you can.
People don't like to hear this,
yeah.
But the Bible is very clear. The only way you can have a relationship with God is through His Son Jesus Christ. It's in so many scriptures, and it's in the Old Testament. It's foreshadowed in the Old Testament. When you really understand the Bible and read it objectively, it's like it's amazing, and it's
quite incredible how well it's put together.
Here's a healthy marker for it too, is it's the only faith or religion that says you can't do it, you're not good enough, I'm going to do it for you, I'll save you, I'm going to save you. What every other religion on the earth says, be a good person, do good works, you'll earn your way to heaven. Christianity is the only faith where the living God comes to reside with you. Once you believe, the scripture says, once you believe in Jesus Christ, that supernatural transaction happens in your soul and your spirit. And that's where that heightened voice starts to speak to you, and it grows. It's the only faith that requires you to say, you know what, I can't do this. I'm too broken. I'm not good enough. I don't have the power. There is a better way out there. There is a healthier life. There's an eternal kingdom. There's an eternal way of being and living that's all love. I'm not capable of creating it. We're not capable of making it. We need you, God. There is no other, and I mean this. This is true. Especially Islamic, it's controversial, but like Islamic faith, Hinduism, all of it, it's all the same. It's all, I mean, God, you have people killing people in the name of God. No true Christian or has ever, no true Christian or even the Hebrews of the Bible of old were murdering each other in the name of their God. And if they were getting it wrong. God never once commanded that. And a lot of people take God out of context in the Bible. They don't truly understand the stories and the context of the stories. They call him a murderer or a tyrant. I love diving into this because it's like when you really read it and study it, you have like Babylon, ancient Babylon, and Sodom and Gomorrah. God gave those kingdoms centuries to repent. He said, they were sacrificing children. They were sexual, immoral. They were perverted.
Into the Crusades.
He gave them.
There's so many things that happen.
That's much later, but he gave them so much time. He warned them over and over, and finally he said, "You know what? I'm going to destroy you." And people think that's unjust. Well, like you're born to die anyway, and the evidence that we die, the fact that we die is evidence of our fallen nature. I mean, the fact that we shit is evidence of our fallen nature. You know what I mean? Like, think about it. It's not complicated. I like to talk about this because there is an answer and there is a way to truth.
Kyle has this figured out, and it always makes me extremely uncomfortable because I don't have it figured out.
I'm trying to draw a connection between shitting
and dying.
Well, I mean, think about it.
It's a good conversation.
Wait, hold on,
Kyle,
because he has such good points as he speaks. It's just my knowledge base on that history is not there. So maybe that's to the point why I get a little bit uncomfortable. But
it's
also,
the theology stuff. Yeah.
It's there for you to read.
Also, the knowing that I am imperfect, and if there is such a divine being, I might not be worthy, right? Or just this maybe subconscious thoughts. But what I've been getting into lately, and I mentioned it in the previous episode, is the map of consciousness that this guy, Dr. Dawkins, had developed. And he uses kinesiology to measure your vibrations and your energy fields. And it's closely correlated with Christianity and the beliefs of major religions. And this map of consciousness has these fields and levels, 0, actually -50, which is a calibration of like suicide. It's destructive and less than death, right? And then you can get up above the 0 mark and you get into like feelings such as guilt, apathy, like hopelessness, also like draining type energies.
Like they were mapping these frequencies. Like there's evidence of the frequencies, right?
Yeah,
'Cause this
like
is true in science. Like
Yeah.
vibration.
Some of that stuff's
and-
crazy.
yeah,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
you can measure the thought frequency with kinesiology, and so when you think of things that are aligned with truth and or your truth, it's the 200 mark, and it's the courage feeling, right? You're having courage to tell yourself the truth. You're having courage to speak up for your own truth, and so that's when you go into a more productive state. And then above that is courage. You get things like love, and acceptance, and these are feelings that enhance your energy even further. And then you'll get into like places where only few individuals, and Jesus calibrated at like 750 or something like that, just the enlightened few. And so it's just interesting to understand these vibrations and these energy fields that you emit and frankly attract, because they are sort of magnetic.
It's the quantum field, yeah.
Yeah, and when you think this way, I encourage anybody listening, and maybe I could put a snippet on the videos of this map of consciousness, because it's really interesting and it's easily identifiable. The thoughts you're thinking. You can say, oh, okay, that thought, that's low on the field. That's damaging. I could take it up to here. And if you can think that way on the fly, well, I think it's helped me, for instance.
Understanding consequences of, well, that already is a good indicator if you just think life is inconsequential, like some people do.
That's the low. They said the lowest on the spectrum was suicide,
scary.
right? That's the lowest of the low.
Or like P. Diddy, right?
It's pretty bad. Dr. Joe Dispenza, too. I can't remember the name of the book, but he has multiple books about the quantum field and about energy. And like I said, I can't remember the name of the book that I had listened to, but that if you want to get into that type of energy and quantum field, Dr. Joe Dispenza is one of the best that I've heard. I'll go through that, so check that out.
Rudy can reference the author in the book, because we were talking about last night too. Yeah. And he actually showed me an audio, and I liked it. It's just more evidence of the existence of a just right way of being that I mean, and anyone intelligent, really, in my opinion, should be able to discern that there is a creator. I mean, DNA in and of itself is evidence of a programming, right? You can't have DNA randomly. I mean, the fact that some people believe that this is just random is you've just been indoctrinated with lies to probably keep you at a lower vibration, because I think that people are in charge of this world that want you at a lower vibration. It's just, personally, I believe everything is linked back to spirituality, but it's nobody likes to say one way of believing is right over the other, but if you're gonna think that, then what you're saying is that you don't believe in truth. Because if you're gonna say everyone has a right to believe what they believe, then who the fuck is gonna be right? Like, somebody has to be right.
Yeah.
Think about it, because otherwise you're not gonna be able to breathe oxygen.
Yeah.
Because right now you're experiencing something that was created because somebody is right, and that somebody is the man upstairs. I mean, it's God. It's like, it's very popular in new agey to think there's many paths to God, but the Bible, time and time again, is clear there's only one way to Him. And it's divisive, but I guess my point was, we were getting at, we were talking about society, is we like to go about our day every day. Really, it's just a whole bunch of like everyone just holding up these images of like perfection. We're all agreeing to abide by these constructs, but it's like death is waiting for us almost every second. If you think about it, it's there.
I want to. There's one last thing I'd like to say about this conversation, is that this is also something that I spoke about with James, and this was actually my idea, it wasn't his. But I've seen it in my own life, and some of you want to talk about that the perfect, I didn't know how to depict it during the conversation, Rudy, but I think you put your finger on it, is the vibration. And I've seen certain pastors in my life and certain people speaking the word of God, and really believing in that 100%. And just the energy that they had and like brought to this, like just like the enlightened energy, the way that they speak, how fluent it is, and like just being on a stage for hours with that much energy, and then going about everything else that they have to do in their lives, because I've known some of these people personally.
Yeah.
You're like, that person's operating at a different level. Mm-hmm. It's very obvious when you see certain people that are, whether they're, a leader of a company, but I've seen it especially, and, people who are very, very specific and, empowered, or whatever the right word for it is, in their faith. And like, they're vibrating at a different level. Yeah. And that's all there is. It's to
evident.
It. You know what I mean? It's you can see it. You know what I mean? You're sitting there kind of like, I'm sitting there feeling bad for myself. Yeah. I'm sitting there feeling bad for myself. And I'm like, this person's like, they're on it,
Makes me think of the flow state, or the concept of a flow state.
And I've seen other people, especially speaking on stages, that are in that flow state that weren't necessarily speaking about, religion, but I've seen it the most, I would say, in my life, in a religious aspect.
Nick, where are you getting your flow state?
How do I get into my flow state?
Yeah. And what activities?
Oh, what activities? I have a very vivid memory of being in a flow state when I was like 6 years old. I was playing kickball and
just crushing it.
Seriously, I was rounding third base, and I knew that a ball had just been thrown at me from behind, and I was going to get tagged out, but that ball hit the ground like right at the back of my heels, and I jumped, and the ball went under me, and I hit home plate, and I scored.
You intuited that.
Yeah.
It's actually incredible.
Like, it was a crazy, I'm telling you, like, it was it was a moment for me. I'll never forget it. I was in like that kickball flow state hardcore.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you hit a flow. I'm sure you hit a flow state.
It's very true.
You hit a flow state at work a lot. I'm sure, man.
It's the real deal.
I'm sure at work you hit a flow state a lot.
I don't know. Yeah,
it's tough. Yeah, work's tough.
I remember like back in the day, math class, like doing calculus or something like that, like doing problems over and over and over again, like different like math classes. I'd get into sort of a flow state where I was like, doing some sort of like expansion, right? And I'd just be able to like just rip through these things. But
do you get it in music too when
music? Yeah, I remember like back in the day when I used to, I think you have to do these things a lot, right? It's all, for me, it's about repetition, like this,
familiarity.
You just got to do it over and over. And I remember back in the day with music, I could like at peak, like for like my peak moments, I would like, I could sit down and start like riffing on some chord progressions and hum along, and maybe like throw some words in there that like just felt like they fit. Like back in the day I could do that.
You know what, man? Dude, Katie Sear used to talk about you in such a beautiful light. And it made me want to ask about like, I want to be like, what are your passions, Nick? Like, what are you passionate about? And I remember her talking about you playing in a band.
Yeah.
And man, that's got to be something that you, I'm sure, still love.
Yeah, I really enjoy playing in a band. Growing up, I liked attention. I wanted the attention. I always wanted to be a popular kid, and I always felt like I was kind of like on the cusp of popularity, but not really. Like, I could hang out. I had friends who I knew were popular, but I was not popular. But when I started playing in a band, all of a sudden, like maybe you have 10 people watching you do your thing. Maybe you have 50 or 100, right?
Yeah.
But when you have people, like, when you're able to do something and then get people to react to what you're doing in that way, you get sort of this, like, a little bit of an ego thing going on.
I've always been jealous of musicians. I think about it all the time. I still sing to myself in my car and picture, like, my high school crowd and, like, watching me. Like, it's just that feeling that musicians must get is incredible. I went to a Zach Bryan concert recently at Gillette, and I mean, the place was sold out. There's 50,000 people singing every single one of his songs. I'm like, I can't even imagine what kind of feeling that is. And to your point, how do you not let it get to your head? I mean, like, it's insane.
You almost can't, right? You can't let it get
The best
to your
ones
head.
probably don't let it get to them.
No.
I know this probably is like, this sounds silly, but I there were a few instances. I'm walking through, Market 32, Price Shopper at the time, and I'm like 22 years old, and these high school kids come up to me and they're like, "Are you in that band?" I'm like, "Yeah," and that's my favorite band. Our band was called Ragged Company, but it was like, oh, cool, thanks. But like we wrote all our songs, and it was
that feels
it was fun.
awesome.
Yeah, it was
That's
really,
great, man.
You felt like you
That's
were
cool
going
as
to be.
hell.
I really thought at one point I really thought I was going to become a rock star.
Yeah.
I really did. I was like, I am.
You should
This
have
is
to
my
manifest that.
trajectory. This
Yeah.
is where I'm going, and then I didn't.
Yeah.
You
I
did,
didn't-
Nick,
I didn't.
just in
Yeah,
a different,
that's all right,
different way.
man.
different
It didn't really
way.
work out
Yeah.
for any of us either. That's why we're trying this.
Everybody said it.
We'll still be famous over
Yeah,
Rudy
we'll
someday.
be famous someday
All right.
soon.
Quit our day jobs and remember, guys, the Patreon link is below.
After
so
you
can
all
support the
donate
channel.
$25 each. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, but listen, don't get it mixed up. We truly believe in Ryan. This was Ryan's conviction. That if 5 people love this podcast, then we're more than happy, and we feel like we've accomplished something. And
I really feel it, and we do have a few listeners that do listen every time we put out an episode, and I don't know exactly what that number is, but I do know that there are people, and some people we've never met before, who don't even live around here, that listen to us, and that means the world to us. And yeah, that is something. Thank you for bringing that up, Kyle. That we said in the beginning. I think it was a collective thought that we had on a meeting where, like, even if one person listens to this and it makes a difference in their life, or they can take the blocks or something we said and put it in actionable, put it into action and make a small or a big change in their life, then I mean, all the work and everything that's gone into it, it's 100% worth it. And hopefully that's taken form in some way, shape, or form, or even just people getting some enjoyment and getting some reprieve just to listen to the episode and hopefully have a few laughs.
Yeah, and
I don't know how big or small it is, but we're very grateful that people actually take an hour or whatever out of their day to listen to like us, go through this. It's actually amazing.
yeah,
I usually listen when I'm pumping iron.
yeah.
Hell
There you
yeah,
go.
dude.
There you go.
I'm kidding.
To the break of fucking dawn, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm kind of touched. Man. I'm like, I feel honored by that.
I'll go pump iron. I usually have to split it into like 2 sessions. But,
Yeah. Well, that's why I think it's good too. Like, maybe this one we can do 2 episodes. We did that with Rob's, and I think it worked out really well.
Yeah.
And then it gets us where we can put something out on a bi-weekly or weekly basis. But we have 2. We have 2 in the queue right now. So we have we recorded one with Dave the other night. Unless there's something, is the audio screwed up? Okay, good.
I haven't listened to it.
Yeah, hopefully this phone's recording. I look at it like every 10 minutes and just think, oh my god, that should have stopped. we don't check it. We need to have like somebody like show up and like. I need like a mirror actually behind there, so we can see if it's still recording. That's actually a good idea. I'm proud of myself. I was in a flow state right there.
You're always in a flow state. Man.
Dude,
my buddy
No, I'm
Chris,
just annoying.
Chris, dude, I told that I was like, Ryan really thought you were a great guy, man. He's like, I like Ryan a lot. He's like, that guy likes to fucking talk a lot though, huh, on the podcast? Yeah. I was like, dude, well, we joke around about how he's always just like a motor.
Yeah.
He laughed, but I don't want that to ever change about you, man.
I think that, well, it's funny, but I wish we were recording when we first started talking, when we sat down here. It's like, you had that moment where somebody said that to you, and maybe you can share it if you wanted to or not, but people have said that to me throughout my life, and I even remember a girl, I won't say her name, that I really liked, I didn't hear it directly from her, but through the grapevine in high school, she was like, oh, like, he kind of like, he talks too much, like, it's kind of annoying, and it was like, I'm like, you know what? Like, I had that moment, and I think I was getting to that point maybe where I was willing to have my mom drop me off or whatever, that point of maturity, if you will, or whatever
Acceptance,
you want. Yeah, exactly. Whatever you want to
The final stage.
Exactly, yeah, whatever you want to call it. But, like, I was like, you know what? Like, fuck that. Like, this is who I am, and I think that I've gotten better with it. I'm, hopefully a little bit better of a listener, and have gotten better throughout the years. But it's like that, speaking of conscious, like, that's who I am, like, to a certain extent. And if people... that obviously isn't the woman for me if that's the way that she really feels, unless she was, anyway, I
like that for you. I just want to say before we started this, I did say to Nick, and I do want to shine some light on Nick here a little bit too. I did say to Nick, I felt like and I said this to Rudy last night, that I felt like Nick Malloy was somebody that chooses his words very carefully. And so when he speaks, it's very like, it just feels very good. Like he's meaning what he says to you. And I've had that experience with you a lot.
Yeah.
And there was actually something I remember I was down about, and you like said something, and I was like, you don't meet a lot of people that are going to give a shit to like actually care, the empathy that you displayed.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're a great cat, man.
Oh, thank you.
That made me feel really good, but it's interesting, right? Like I don't want Ryan to stop being his intense self, and Ryan's always been there for me too. It's no less genuine, but like when you have like the opposite.
This is Nick. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's
such a good impression.
That's really interesting.
And then Dottie's like, all right, what I need you to do is go on Facebook, all right?
Yeah.
And then you're gonna
Don't spoil the skit. Don't spoil the skit. I did.
That was freaking. That was sweet though. We got like 400 followers from that.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw that out there, dude.
But
was insane.
But anyway, Nick being more like, the opposite spectrum is no less valuable, but also really, I'm a people person. I just feel deeply. So like Nick is always, I've known Nick through Rudy, and Nick's always been somebody I've always enjoyed talking to, and always felt like he just he just intently listens, and when he speaks, it makes you feel good. And I've always felt very good around you.
I have to tell you, my father was always like, he was always like giving me little like words of wisdom growing up. And one of the things that he always said that I'll, remember forever is
Nice.
we're here to pick each other up, right? And I remember he used to give me these pep talks on the way to football practice and our games on Sundays, and he'd always say, you always pick each other up, right? It doesn't matter if it's the person on the other team or if it's one of your teammates. Pick them up, bring them up to your level. That's what he would say. Bring them up to your level, and that's something that I've always tried to do. Because why not put people down or
absolutely.
bad
His message
spots
was
or
so much
right
more
people,
than just the football field.
Oh my
You knew
God!
what he was saying
Yeah,
too.
wow! What great words.
But I was really little when he'd say that.
What's really cool about Nick
amazing.
too is his I met Nick when he was younger, and we were getting into our careers at that time, and we were doing some fun things outside of our careers.
Yeah, recreational.
And those fun things are different fun things now, right? So it's cool that when Nick is listening, and I know this, he has a wealth of experience to pull from to sort of try to relate to whatever's being said to him. So I know this just from my experience with him. So
Yeah, I think when I was younger, going back to like wanting to be seen, right? Like kind of just wishing that, I think, like sometimes maybe it was more me than like other, not everybody feels this way, but I like, you want to be noticed.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you get to a certain point in your life where, you can just be your authentic self, and you don't have to like, you don't have to prove it. It's like the car,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Like mom, drop me off right up front.
yeah,
Yeah,
Like that's where I want to be.
yeah.
And that's good. That's a good place to be.
Yeah, and that was kind of the thought that I came to. It's like, if anybody doesn't want to hang out with me or date me or whatever because I got dropped off in this car, then they can fucking go screw. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they don't appreciate who I am and where I came from. Then I don't have any
Nothing to
deal
prove.
with.
Yeah,
right,
nothing to
reason
prove.
to deal
Ain't
with.
got no time for that.
What I really wanted to ask, because it really, I just had a thought. Like at Blockhead Nation, right? Part of what we are at least trying to do is to get people to kind of aspire towards those things they've always wanted to do or maybe put on the shelf. And what do you do now, Nick, that like you really love? Like, I'm assuming obviously it's probably time with the family or whatever, but like what do you do now, like when you have time to yourself and you're not working with your family? Like, what are the things that you do for fun and what do you draw from that? And also, do you see yourself getting maybe back into the music or something more that you aspire to do maybe when the kids get a little older or something?
Yeah, so I have to be honest. For me right now, I really don't do anything for me.
Yeah.
Like, occasionally, maybe I'll hang out with Rudy, or we'll at least talk about doing stuff.
We've been trying to get golfing.
Yeah, like when we do get together, the families are coming together, and for me, like me time is family time. Like my favorite parts of the weekday, I love bringing my kids to school. Like I just love drop off. It's so much fun. I love it. I love that they run into their classrooms and they're like pumped to be there. Like, and that pumps me up.
Yeah.
And then when I have to go to work, I'm kind of like, oh man, now I got to go to work. But like, I can't wait to stop working to go pick them up. Like,
amazing.
It's just having those interactions with their teachers, and how was Oliver's day? Did he have fun? Was it a good day? And they're like, oh yeah, he's a sweetie pie, and like it's really good to just. You're
really like soaking in being a dad. You're soaking in their experience.
I've always all my like friends and like closest companions, they've always said that I'm like on or off, right? Like everything that I do, I'm either like 100% in or I'm just like not interested. And for me, it's really no surprise that like my number one like focus is just my family. Like I love it.
That focus and purpose. I was telling Ryan and Dave this on our last show our last recording is like that. Your purpose can change throughout life, and really what you're doing and what you're working on right now is likely aligned with your purpose. And just being a good dad and being a good husband, that's all you need sometimes, or that purpose is all you can do sometimes, and it's great.
Yeah.
Well, I love that too. Like you said, you're all in on it. Like, because I was trying to I was kind of prodding at something of maybe you like picking back up music, but.
I still play. Like I'll play. I'll pull a guitar out, and like the kids love it.
They must love it. Yeah.
We've got a piano at home, and the kids love music, and I'll sing. I'll just like make things up, and they include their names.
Well, it's cool. Yeah, it's cool to incorporate those things together. But it's just awesome to hear you just genuinely say like that. That's what I care about now. Like that's what's the most important. And if I can incorporate the music with them, or whatever, have a little bit of time to play, that's great. But
and my wife, like I couldn't have ended up with a better partner, like just the best person for me. And I always joked, like you go through these relationships, right? And it's like an experiment. And for me, every time a relationship would end, I would say, well, like I learned a little bit more about what I like and what I want and what I need, and I learned a little bit more about the things that are not good for me. Mm-hmm. So it just every relationship really kind of got better and better. And then with Paylon, she's
the culmination.
Yeah, and I mean, nothing's ever perfect, although it feels like we talk about like gratitude, but I'll just like lay in bed and I just, because at night I like to do like, I have like my little ritual, like I go through my thought process, and you call it prayer or whatever you want, but I'm just like, this is not real. This is not real.
Oh, that sounds a beautiful thought, you're very grateful.
I'm like super grateful for
That's awesome.
my
I love
life.
that.
I'm like so lucky.
That's amazing.
It's refreshing.
I feel very lucky.
Wow, I mean that's probably an amazing thing to sort of wrap up on.
Yeah,
it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, we could either end it right there, or like a lot of times we could either go back to giving each other compliments if you want to, or just Nick could tell us which one of. Actually, I think he just did what his favorite block is, and and why. But I mean, I'm happy to whatever you guys think. But that was just a beautiful, beautiful sentiment, and I loved every second of it.
Nick, it's so true. It feels true coming from you, Nick. It's so fucking genuine and sincere. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about your communication.
You're a genuine guy.
Thank you.
You're a genuine guy, man. I think all of our guests, I mean, everyone we've had so far, I think, which actually speaks to the vibration, I guess, we give off, man. We're pulling in.
We're truthful vibrations.
We're pulling in people who are confident and grateful. I think everyone we've had so far is capable of feeling that, and that's a great quality. I wanted to end because we got into some heavy religious stuff, and it's interesting because it's impossible to not look through that lens at your own self. And it sounds daunting because it's like, well, how do I get to the truth? Or, it's how do I get saved? Or how do I believe? Or, Rudy was mentioning how uncomfortable it makes him, which is actually, I will say, Rudy, is quite courageous of you. And you're talking about courage. So if anything, that's a marker for your ability to be open. But I want to say the simplicity, and I promise you this is true, because I've studied this so much. Just like a manual to like fix a Subaru engine, right? There's a right way to fix it. The manual says how to fix it. You can interpret the manual properly, and if you interpret it properly, the engine will be fixed. So I've been led by a lot of great, trustworthy Bible teachers who preach and teach the grace of God, and this is biblical. And this is the gospel, and I'm going to share it with you guys because I love you all. And the gospel is you don't need to do anything. All you have to do is believe. And that's faith, right? That's like God testing our faith. Because if God gave us all the answers, what's the gift of faith? How would faith be a gift? And Jesus constantly says throughout the New Testament how through all things are possible through faith in me. All you need is faith. So to be saved from death and to inherit eternal life and to be, with your loved ones one day, all you have to do is believe in Jesus Christ. You don't have to perform. You don't have to be sinless. You don't have to start living perfectly. Jesus proved that that's not how to be saved. He took care of it all. He paid it all. You just have to believe in him. That's it. It's that simple. You just believe and the rest will take care of itself. God will start speaking to you every day. And that's something I want to say because it's that easy. And that will start the journey if you so choose. And the truth will reveal itself to you slowly but surely. But I felt like you're a guest that I feel comfortable saying that to, man, because you're a deep guy and you have a lot of expressions for love and your family and your job. And I should express this to more people, but I feel more comfortable expressing it around you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. Yeah. What you said makes me think, you talk about this, I think what you were describing in a way could be kind of paraphrased or characterized as like a passion for Christ, and then a faith that follows, and you could very easily translate that to all aspects of life, right? If you have a passion for something, and if you apply faith or maintain faith in having that passion for something, then everything's going to be okay, So if you were to make like a career change, that is the path, right? Yeah. But your career change aligns with a particular passion, and if you just trust, we always talk about trusting the process, right? If you trust the process and you maintain a sense of faith, it's highly likely that eventually something's going to hit. Right. Eventually, you're going to get to where you need to be. Yep. So whether it's through Christ or other aspects of life,
Yeah. Sure. It's positive. Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. I mean those are two main things. I mean, if there's nothing else, tell yourself the truth about the passion you have or whatever you're doing, and then believe that you're going to complete it. Did that fuck it up? No. All right.
Hit the mic.
So I think it's a great place to end. Nick, it's been a pleasure. And
absolutely. Really nice seeing you.
I didn't ramble.
No.
I did, but that's my job. That's my job here.
No. We rambled a lot. But you patiently listened to us.
I didn't listen too much.
You were checked out. Okay.
When Kyle was going, I was thinking.
No, I always listen.
I know.
I have to listen.
That's a good. It's a strength.
Important.
That's awesome. Well,
I hope y'all enjoyed. We'll be coming out with some more stuff. And guys, don't make me fucking beg, because I have a charity coming up next weekend. This Blockhead Nation has a charity that we are sponsoring in Magic for Maddie. It is a charity to help kids with cancer in the area, in the valley. They've been doing it for a number of years now, and it's a great cause. If you want me to bet, I'm going to start begging, because not one of you motherfuckers clicked the link, and I'm mad. All right? So
I gotta donate too. So.
Please go. I'm gonna post it every day this week. Nick was the only one that joined the team.
Do you know how I did it? So just I'll add that if you when you go to the website and you have this ambition to sign up, right? You may be confronted with this fact, that the idea that you have to run. Right. Well, if you don't want to run or you're unable to run, you can simply you can support virtually. Yeah. Right. So I'm a virtual runner. Yeah. Rudy, I will not be running. Okay.
That's okay. That's okay.
I've contributed.
You've contributed. Right. He's got his hat. If you contribute, reach out to us. We'll get you a hat. This is something that I just can't fathom from a parenting standpoint. If my child was ever in a situation that some of these children are, what a parent would do, especially if they're in a worse place than I. So think about that. Think about how you can help, and if I would be very grateful if you just click that link and follow Nick's instruction there. I think that's it, though. I hope y'all got a bunch of great info on this in this episode, and continue to build block by block. All right.
Block by block.
Block by block, baby.
Blockhead, yes,